Pardon about my audio perception because we couldn't get a microphone, proper microphone, so we are using a headphones microphone. So please forgive us. So today we will discuss about the techniques for reproduction. So obviously there should be some natural techniques and some assisted techniques. So if you draw a line diagram of a female reproductive tract, it should look like this. So this is the uterus. Uterus, lower part that ends with a cervix. Lower part, that is the vagina, and it is connected with the fallopian tubes. So these are the fallopian tubes. Fallopian tubes, all of you know, there are few parts. So this is the fimbrial end, this is the ampulla, this is the cornu, this is the body of the uterus, this is the cervix, and this is the vagina. Obviously another organ which is very much important, that is the ovaries. So these are the ovaries. Now what happens? All of you know by this time there are two cycles side by side running, that is, one is ovarian cycle, another one is uterine cycle. So what about the ovarian cycle? Initially there is very less hormone production, so that time menstruation occurs, that is the uterine cycle. For uterine cycle, those endometrial layers they slough off. Then what happens? A particular ovum, a particular Graafian follicle start to mature. Along with that, ovary starts to produce a lot of estrogen. So estrogen leads to increased thickness of the endometrial lining. After a certain period, say after 10-12 days, what happens? There is one positive feedback to the pituitary gland. So there will be a LH surge. So LH surge will lead to release of the ovum from the mature Graafian follicle and formation of corpus luteum. So corpus luteum, it will start to produce progesterone, and estrogen production also will remain high. So what will happen? Increased progesterone level will increase the glandular component, increase the secretory component of the endometrial lining. So secretory phase starts. Now, if at that very point sperm reaches to the ovum, there will be fertilization, and that fertilized ovum, that fertilization will occur at the ampulla. Then that fertilized ovum, or that is known as zygote, they will come back inside the body of the uterus, and inside the body of the uterus there will be implantation. So what is implantation? That means that trophoblastic cell, they will bury through the endometrial lining. So they will consume some of these glandular parts, glandular endometrium. So there will be nutrition, a lot of nutrition, and finally that initial trophoblast, they will convert into initially embryo, then finally it will convert into a fetus, and finally after a certain period of time, say for about 9 months, 9 months, there will be parturition or childbirth. So that is the natural technique. So for natural technique to happen, what you require, first of all, you have to remember, number one, ovum viability, it is about 12 hours. 12 hours after ovulation. Sperm viability inside the female genital tract, it is about 48 hours. So what you get about a 60 hours window. So within this 60 hours, if the sperm reaches in the vaginal vault, it has to travel to the cervical canal. Okay, sorry. Sperm has to reach here. Okay, then it will have to pass through the cervical canal. Then it will have to ascend in this ampulla, and there fertilization will take place. Okay, so this 60 hours window period is very much important. Now, there might be multiple problems in reproduction. What might be the problem? First of all, most important problem, reproductive technique, that is copulation might be faulty. What does that mean? The person may suffer from impotency. The male partner may suffer from some kind of genetic defect, so that he may not be able to produce enough amount of sperms. Maybe the semen is very low quality. Okay, so whatever it is, if the sperm deposition does not occur, there will be infertility. Now you require to have enough ample amount of sperm, enough mature sperm and enough motile sperm, so that it can travel up to this very point. So that there will be some kind of problem. What else? Sperm that might be entrapped within the semen itself, if the semen is very dry. Okay, all of you know, I think by this time, I think sperm and some other nutrient rich substance, they made up the semen. Semen is not made up of only sperm. So if the semen is very thick, like in case of cystic fibrosis, sperm will not be released, so that it will not be able to travel. What else? Due to female problem, there might be, due to genetic defects, there might be inability of the person to produce ovum. What else? Anywhere in this genital tract, there might be some adhesions. Say if there is a block here, or a block here, or a block here, there might not be able to, sperm might not be able to reach up to the ampulla. What else? There might be some kind of hormonal defect, so that endometrial lining, which is very much important for viability of the sperm, that might not occur. What other issues may arise? There might be some sort of antibody formation against the sperm, that is known as anti-sperm antibody formation. So anti-sperm antibody formation, that might also lead to destruction of the sperm here in the vaginal canal only. Right. So all these factors, that 60 hours window, viable and good amount of sperm, good motility, enough and intact tract, ovulation, matured ovum formation, endometrial lining maturation, all these factors has to be fulfilled to become starting from a sperm and ovum to become a fetus itself. And finally, there is one problem, what we cannot describe why it is happening, we name it, okay, it is idiopathic. So that is also one cause, idiopathic infertility. Right, so this is the normal technique. Now if a person is infertile, be it a male, be it a female, you have to treat him or her to overcome this problem. Okay, so what you can do, you can go for some assisted reproductive techniques. Now, if we consider there might be two different types of problem, rather three different types of problem. Problem might be in the male subject, problem might be in the female subject, problem might be in both. So how you can differentiate the causes? Now if we summarize it about the infertility, number one, male issues, what might be there? Number one, genetically absent sperm. Number two, there might be abnormal sperms. There might be inferior quality semen. And finally, there might be some blockage in any of the tract carrying the sperm line. In the urethra, if there is a blockage in the vas deferens, so any kind of blockage might be there. Okay, so what might be the problem in females? Again, genetic problem that might lead to absent ovum. Secondly, abnormal ovum. there might be some kind of blockage within the femoral pathway. There might be some hormonal issues which may lead to reduced viability. Why reduced viability? If the endometrium is not mature enough, ready enough to take care of the ovum or take care of the zygote, there will be infertility. And what else? There might be anti-sperm antibodies. So what else? Again, finally, both issue. What might be the both issues? So all of these male and female factors plus idiopathic. So cause we cannot determine. Now all these factors if you have to overcome infertility, you have to take care of all these factors. So how you can approach a couple with infertility? So approach should be first, you have to take a proper history. All kind of disease management should start with a proper history. So approach will be number one, take history. So what is the history? First of all, just remember what I have already told. You require a 60 hours window. You have to copulate within that 60 hours window, and you have to go for reproduction. So if the person's sexual history is normal, if he or she is having intercourse just after menstruation or just before menstruation, there might not be any kind of pregnancy. So you have to take proper history. Sexual history is very important. Secondly, all kind of history related to any kind of genetic defect, like if the male person, he is suffering from cystic fibrosis, he will not be able to produce good amount of sperm and good amount of semen. If your female subject, he is not genetically fit, he is amenorrheic from the birth, that might occur in case of different type of genetic defects. So that may lead to infertility because of either absence of genital organs like a blind uterus or something like that, or maybe due to absence of any kind of ovum formation. So first history, you have to take the sexual histories. Number two, physical. Our main target is to determine any kind of genetic defect. And finally, you have to take care of any kind of history of major diseases. So what diseases we are mainly concerned with? Mainly mumps, cancer, and also tuberculosis. These three are very important diseases to lead to infertility. In case of mumps, orchitis is very common. So childhood orchitis might not lead to any kind of grave physical defect, but sperm quality or sperm number might be less in case of female. Why the cancer history? Because all of you know cancer, a major mode of treatment is radiotherapy, also chemotherapy. So these gametes and ovums, all of them are highly metabolically active cells. So in case of radiotherapy or chemotherapy, they get affected very commonly. And tuberculosis, it is a major disease, a major endemic disease in our society. So any kind of tuberculosis that might lead to a blockage in the pathway, so anatomical defect might occur. So this disease history is very important. And most of the time, from the sexual history, physical history, which might give you some clues about the genetic defects and all these things, and these disease histories will lead you to specific type of investigations. So what kind of investigation you can do? So first approach should be the history, a detailed history taking. Second approach should be investigating. So what kind of investigations we are talking about? First of all, you have to check for the physical examination. Physical examination may reveal a lot of things. Presence of orchitis, absence of viable genital tract in females, absence of uterus, absence of secondary sexual character both in males or females, all might give you a clue about any kind of genetic disorder. Secondly, you have to go for karyotyping. Karyotyping means taking a note about the person's chromosomal study. Okay, so karyotyping will be able to differentiate between whether the male is having some kind of genetic defect like Klinefelter syndrome, or female subject is suffering from any kind of genetic defect like true hermaphrodism, whatever it is. So karyotyping should be the second thing you should do. Third, for the males, you have to go for a semen analysis. So semen analysis for male, you have to check for whether the semen quality is normal, semen quantity is normal, number of sperms are normal, number of viable sperms are normal, whether there is any kind of motility defect is there or not. All these things you will be having an idea by doing a semen analysis. And then you have to go for the hormonal studies. So any kind of hormones, particularly the sex hormones, may lead to infertility. Say for example, hyperprolactinemia, it is a very common problem, very common disorder in case of a pituitary gland tumor. Hyperprolactinemia may lead to female infertility due to anovulation. Ovulation does not occur with hyperprolactinemia. So you have to go for hormonal studies. Particularly important hormones are the sex hormones, prolactin level, as well as thyroid hormones. All these hormones should be assessed both quantitatively and also qualitatively. Finally, you have to go for the imaging. So imaging for male, usually we go for only ultrasound study of the testis and related organs. And if there is any kind of blockage or any kind of organic pathology, it will be detectable by doing a USG of the KUB region as well as USG of the testis in case of male. But in case of female, the array is big. First of all, very common motility, that is HSG, hysterosalpingogram. Hysterosalpingogram, what we do in this case, we inject some dye inside the uterine cavity, and that injected dye, after that we do a X-ray, and that X-ray with the injected dye you can be able to appreciate about the interior of the uterus. Number two, the directivity, connectivity of the fallopian tube. If after giving the dye, that dye goes inside the abdominal cavity, that means fallopian tube connection is impaired. So what does that mean? When you push the dye, say this is the uterus and this is the fallopian tube, you push the dye from this channel, you push the dye from this channel and you find the dye spilled over here, full area, and also some dye spillage here. So what does that mean? That uterine cavity is normal, and also these fallopian tube channels are intact, so that dye is coming inside the abdomen. So what else you can do? You can go for a video hysterosalpingography plus laparoscopy. Okay, so video hysterosalpingography or video hysteroscopy with laparoscopy will give you a real-time view about the internal part of the uterus as well as external side of the uterus within the abdominal cavity. And finally, you can go for again a USG. USG will give you idea about a lot of things. First of all, USG will give you idea about whether the ovums are maturing or not, because doing a USG you can directly see the matured Graafian follicle. Secondly, you can check for whether ovulation is occurring or not. So that is known as ovulation study. What we do? We do serial USGs and we follow up one mature ovum, one mature Graafian follicle, and we see whether that Graafian follicle has ruptured or not, and we can see the fluid in the pouch of Douglas or not. So that you can get an idea. Secondly, about the anatomical structure of the uterus, you can also get an idea from the USG, whether the fallopian tubes are normal, whether the uterine body is normal, whether the cervix is normal, whether there is any kind of space occupying lesion in the uterine cavity, whether the ovaries are normal. You can also have an idea from the USG. Say for instance, you are having a big, huge size tumor here. Okay, so if a big, huge size tumor here is present, it will prevent the implantation. Everything might be normal, sperm might be normal, ovum might be normal, isthmus, ampulla might be normal, so there might be fertilization, but uterus cannot retain the product. So by doing USG, you will have the idea whether any kind of anatomical defect is there or not. So by doing from this history and this investigation part, you will be able to pinpoint where is the problem, why the particular couple is not fertile, so that you can finally go for the treatment part. Now, before you go into the treatment part, you have to remember one definition. So what is infertility? Will you say infertility if a couple got married, say 6 months back, they come to you, doctor, I cannot conceive. So what will you do? Will you stamp him to be infertile? No, it's not. Infertility, according to the definition, a couple after doing proper sexual practice, if do not get pregnant by 1 year, so 1 year is important and proper sexual practice is important, does not get pregnant by 1 year, you will be stamping him or her to be an infertile couple. Below 1 year, not infertility. Without proper sexual history, not infertility. Now, how you can assist the person? First of all, what will you do? Always you have to go for number one. Always you have to go for counseling. So, particularly, number one, reassuring the couple, and number two, give them idea about the sexual cycle, when the ovulation is occurring, how to take basal body temperature, how to get the LH surge, when to do the copulation, how to remain in that everything. So these things you have to counsel. Most important is you have to reassure that okay, it will be fine, you will be fine with proper treatment. Second thing, what we did already, we diagnosed the case, what is happening. Say, if there is presence of anti-sperm antibody, what you can do? If you counsel only, will that go away? No, it will not go away. So what you have to do? You have to cross the cervical barrier, or say some kind of, or due to some kind of disease, say there was a carcinoma in situ, you have operated out the cervix. So what will happen? Cervix already, that is a very small aperture, that will become more fibrous, more stenosis. So you have to overcome it. So you have to pass that cervical region by any other method. So what we do? We do IUI, that is known as intrauterine insemination. So in this case, what we do? We collect the sperm, collect the semen from the male partner, we inject it directly inside the uterine cavity. So your copulation part is bypassed, you don't require to copulate. Your cervix and all these pathways, if there is any kind of block, that might be bypassed. So this is the most primitive technique for assisted reproductive technique. Now these modern days we usually go for in vitro fertilization, IVF, in vitro fertilization. That means fertilization will occur outside the female body. This is also in day-to-day layman terms known as test tube baby. Remember that never ever any baby has been created inside a test tube. Most of the time a petri dish is used, and most of the time only a modular blastula, that is 8 cells or 16 cell stage, we produce in a test tube. Then what we do, we usually implant the thing either inside the mother or in any donor, that is uterine, that is surrogate mother. Whatever it is, we usually transfer that embryo after that. We do not produce a baby in a test tube. We do not produce any kind of fertilization rather in a test tube. We do it in a petri dish. So what we do in case of IVF, what we do, we first collect the semen from the father. If the numbers, if the sperm count is normal, we just wash the semen, we just preserve it, cryopreserve it in liquid nitrogen. If the number of sperm is not normal, we usually mix with some other donor's semen and we cryopreserve it. This goes your male part. For female parts, what we do, we give some ovulation inducing drugs. Most commonly it is the beta HCG, beta chorionic gonadotropin. Okay, so beta HCG is the most commonly used ovulation inducers, except that we sometimes use clomiphene citrate and all these ovulation inducing drugs. Then what we do, we usually via laparoscopy we collect the ovums. After fertilization we collect the ovum from the pouch of Douglas. Then finally, after some preparation, after some cleaning up, we add the sperm and ovum in a petri dish, and there the fertilization occurs. Then we check it, we incubate that for 8 or 16 cell stage, and then we finally transfer that very embryo to either mother or a surrogate mother. Now this is the simplest technique of IVF, in vitro fertilization. These days, the most interesting thing what we are doing these days, that is known as ICSI, I-C-S-I, that is intracytoplasmic sperm injection. So what is that? Say for instance, the male subject, he wants his own baby, no donor sperm should be used, and the male subject, he is producing very less amount of sperm. Normally it is stated that normally more than 20 million per ml of sperm should be there, but say that one person is producing about 3 million or 4 million sperm. So normally there will never be any kind of pregnancy. So what we do, we collect the sperm, we process it, particularly process with hyaluronidase enzyme as well as some particular specific enzymes, so that at acrosomal part, you know, sperm looks like this. It required to have a tail, a body, there should be acrosomal cap. So all these things are removed enzymatically, mainly using the hyaluronidase enzyme. Then only the genetic material, it is collected, and then inside the ovum, using a micro syringe, we push this genetic material inside the micro syringe inside the ovum. So only the genetic material of a sperm, pre-processed genetic material of a sperm, using a micro syringe, we put it inside the ovum. So that means intracytoplasmic, we are directly doing the fertilization process itself. After that, we incubate it in a petri dish and we wait for again up to the 8 or 16 cell stage. And finally, if the female person is normal, if the female does not have any kind of contraindication, if her uterus is working fine, we implant this thing in the uterus of the female person or the mother, proper mother, or we can use a surrogate mother if the female has got some kind of, say, any kind of prior malignancy has removed the uterus. So what we can do, we can use the ovum of the mother, ovum of the biological mother, and then implant the fertilized ovum in the surrogate mother. So baby can mature. So these are the main assisted reproductive techniques. Most important is the IUI, IVF is the test tube baby, and finally the state of the art is the ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection. And again, pregnancy, that might be two types, that is uterine pregnancy by the mother itself or by a surrogate mother itself. So these are the techniques you have to follow. Again, there should be some complications. What are the complications of surrogate pregnancy? Most important complication, that is bleeding. So whenever we are retrieving the sperm, we are doing some laparoscopic techniques. So all these things may lead to bleeding and infection chances. Secondly, there is very high chance of, as we most of the time during these IVF procedures, we use some ovulation inducers. So there will be chances of high amount of multiple ovum release. So there might be chance of multiple pregnancy. What else? All these procedures, they are immensely painful, immensely traumatizing to the female, and also very much economically it is also very costly. So traumatizing for the couple itself. So mental trauma, it is also very important concern about all these techniques. So complications are bleeding and infection, multiple pregnancies, and also mental trauma. So after considering all these things, if you find an infertile couple, you have to counsel him or her how to go for it. And if all these measures just goes away, if all these measures, none of the measure works,